Could you have a crazy car like this and not drive it? Flipping the calendar back to 1971 saw a new design for the Ford Mustang, one that was longer, wider, and heavier than ever. Ford execs hoped that an upsized version of America's pony car would appeal to their customer base who were growing up and needing extra room for young families, but who also didn't want to give up the sporty Mustang in favor of a station wagon or sedan. And while the car got bigger, power levels around the industry were beginning to drop thanks to changes in fuel, looming emissions requirements, and rising insurance premiums levied on speedy cars. Ford positioned the car as an alternative to high-end European road cars, as depicted in this cheesy magazine ad. 1971 was the last hurrah for many muscle cars, but the '71 BOSS 351 did it right, and this one, well, that's nearly brand new. Have you ever seen a brand new 1971 BOSS 351 Mustang? Well, you're looking at one. This thing only has 827 miles. By '71, the BOSS 302 and BOSS 429s were in the history books, and while you could get a '71 Mach 1 with a 429 Cobra jet, the 351 Cleveland in the '71 BOSS was a hot item. Compression stood tall at 11.7 to 1, and when coupled with the factory aluminum intake manifold, special Autolite 4300D 750 CFM carburetor, solid lifter cam, and high-flowing, large-valve Cleveland cylinder heads, this 351 was able to crank out 330 horsepower at 5,400 RPM and 370 pound-feet of torque at 4,000 RPM. Those numbers were solidly in big block territory for many engines, and they helped push the 3,400-pound '71 BOSS 351 to mid-13-second quarter-mile times and 0 to 60s just a couple of ticks behind the heavier Mach 1 429 Super Cobra jet cars. The bottom ends were beefed up with forged connecting rods held by 3/8 bolts, and the nodular cast iron crank stayed in place with 4-bolt main caps. The BOSS 351 had no powertrain options. They all received wide ratio top loader 4-speed transmissions, shifted by Hurst T-handles with heavy-duty clutches, and 9-inch traction lock rear ends fitted with 391 gears for lots of giddy up. Competition suspension helped the BOSS be nimble, with sway bars front and rear, stiffer springs, and shocks tuned to match, and they were staggered out back. Front brakes were power 11.3-inch discs, and oversized rear drums hid behind either stamped steel wheels with caps or optional chrome Magnum 500 wheels wrapped in F60 15-inch wide oval tires. The tires on this car, yeah, they're original. You'll notice all kinds of stickers and tape and paperwork stuck to this car, and that stuff's been there since it was new. This window sticker was put on by Ford. It's still here today. And I know a lot of people are looking at this saying, how could you have a car like this and not drive it? You know, isn't that a waste of a car? Well, in some way, maybe, but in other ways, definitely not. Because I believe we need to have some of these all-original, pristine, low-mile examples as reference material. I mean, it's gonna live in a museum, so we've already established that. But without these, we don't know how these things were. It's a piece of history. The BOSS package featured good looks as well, with a nearly all blacked out hood with ram air scoops, a lower front spoiler, and a chrome front bumper, although you could get it body color as an option. The BOSS grille features dual sport lamps floating in the black honeycomb, and black BOSS 351 stripes flank the sides, And the package came with dual color keyed racing mirrors, but they were deleted on this car in favor of the non-racing chrome mirror for a $20 credit, of course. The rear glass is nearly flat and a rear wing was optional, and the blacked out treatment carries over to the rear panel. The black BOSS 351 decal really looks sharp against the special order orange paint on this car. Inside, the BOSS 351 has some interesting options, like the Stereosonic 8-track tape with an AM radio. The BOSS package included the Performance Instrumentation Group with gauges in the center of the dash and high-back bucket seats, but the Sport Deck rear seat was a $134 option. All added up, this 71 BOSS 351 stickered for $4,651. You know, doing the math, this car has only been driven 17.5 miles a year since it was born. That could be its first tank of gas. Subscribing to Muscle Car of the Week is easy. You just click the button and we magically appear in your inbox. And we'll do that for you next week with another cool car from the Brothers Collection on Muscle Car of the Week.